But several years ago, about 12 years ago, the organization decided it was growing and expanding and had a need for an ethics organization, an ethics committee. So exploration began on what do we need, who's going to chair it. So the founding member, the founding chairman was Carl Bonner, and then several of us who are now on the committee served as Carl's support in the beginning stages. So I want to give you a little bit of history with that and tell you who the ethics committee is today. It's made up of 12 individuals just like you. We're all professionals in telecommunications, in cabling, in the ITS industry. We're not people who have a background in ethics. We're not lawyers. We're not police officers. So that's not our background. But the reason we were chosen to be on the ethics committee is because we have a history or a reputation of wanting to do things right, do it the right ways, people of integrity. And that's what this organization is made up of. So that's how we started. Where we've evolved to now, we're 12 people just like you, and I've really worked hard the last several years to make our committee a diverse representation of the whole body, of the whole organization. So where it began with just several guys from typically or predominantly from the Southeast region, now we have a committee of 12 people that are diverse in their representation. We have folks from all regions of the country. We have international members. We have just recently added a member to our committee who represents the installation and technician ranks. So you may remember Mr. Renfro, Lee Renfro, who won the Cable Challenge 2 or 3 years in a row. So we just recently added him on there. So we have a diverse group that reflects that of the whole body of the organization. And if you're interested in joining the ethics committee, we still are looking for 1 or 2 more folks. So please go on the website, the Bixie website, go to the ethics section, and you'll see how you can join and request to become a member of our organization. Bixie needs young, fresh volunteers. I want to encourage you to do that. It seems like, and you've probably seen it, it's the same guys serving on 4, 5, 6 committees. It seems like the same folks doing the same thing. We need to involve more people. So I encourage you, if you're interested, if you're an ethical person, which I know all of you are, then I'd love to invite you to submit your application to be on our team. Many of my team is here this morning. I appreciate everybody being here to support me in this. So what are the questions we ask ourselves when we began this? There we go. When we began setting up the organization is, what is ethics? We had to define what it is and how we're going to manage this. So first thing is, what is ethics? Ethics is a system of right and wrong. I mean, it's just basic that. You know, do you know right from wrong? How many of you in here feel like you know what's right and what's wrong? I hope everybody's hand goes up. So where did we learn our ethics from? Where did we learn right from wrong? It's something that began at an early age. When we were children, our parents taught us the difference between right and wrong. And unless you have a real deviant parent and a real bad childhood, then you grew up understanding the basic difference between right and wrong. Then you started school. Your teachers taught you the difference between right and wrong. My wife, who is here with me today, she is a school teacher. She teaches elementary school children from grades 1 through grades 5, and she has a mantra that she uses in her classroom. And she quotes it over and over and over again to the children. It's do the right thing. And if someone doesn't know what the right thing is, they'll ask her, well what's right? So in that experience, they're ingrained with, you need to do the right thing. And they're learning what's right and wrong. Sometimes through trial and error. We do wrong things, not understanding it as children, and then when we suffer the consequences, hey, that was a bad idea. That was wrong, and that hurt. So that's how we learn what ethics are and what's right from wrong. Our federal and state laws are generally made from ethics. Someone says, well, I think this is what we need to do. This is the right thing. So we're going to pass a law saying this is the law. We had, my group, this week at Bixie Conference, our committee meeting, we were privileged to have a half-day training session from a lady that runs an international ethics organization. She's been doing this for over 25 years. So as I told you, we're professional telecom, ITS, cable folks. We're not professional ethics folks. So we brought her in to teach us some ethics things, how other industries, and for the last 5 years she's focused on associations, to see how other associations do their ethics committees. So we had some excellent training, and she pointed out that the difference between ethics and morals, while they're closely related, ethics is an outward look. A society will look at situations and they make decisions based on what's the good of society, what's good for the whole folks, and that's ethics. Morals is when you take that same idea and you say, what is my opinion? What's going to be my reactions? And she used the example of drinking. So the ethics, there may be societal ethical issues where people make decisions, rules, laws, whatever, and it's based on what's good for society. We know that drunk driving is not good for society, right? It's not good to have a drunk driver out there being on the roads where he's driving an automobile and he's not able to mentally function the way he should. So that's ethics. But then I make a personal decision on what I'm going to do with alcohol. So that is morals. So that's the difference between morals and ethics. I thought that was a very good distinction between the two. So society imposes on us ethical norms, ethical rules that we have to abide by. So why is it important to have ethics? Why should we have rules? Why should we have standards that we're forced to abide by or that we're suggested to abide by? Sometimes you set up your own rules of ethics for your own personal life. But so why is that important? Because if you don't know where the line is to stop, if it's blurred, then sometimes you'll go over the line and go too far, do something that you shouldn't. Let me give you an example. We love to eat at restaurants. My wife and I, we go out quite a lot because both of us work. She works late hours, and our children are grown and on their own now, so it's a lot easier for us to go out and eat than it is to eat at home. But you know, when you go to a nice restaurant, you go in and you give them your name, and the maitre d' will come and have a couple of menus and escort you to your table. It's a dark restaurant. Some of the nicer restaurants have low lighting. They're dark, and you have to be careful where you're walking. You get to your table, he gives you the menus, and because the light's so low, you're having a difficult time reading it. You're going, I can't see this. You need a flashlight. So over a period of time, you sit there, you have a Diet Coke, you have a glass of water, and your eyes adjust to the light, and you can see the menus. Okay, now I see. Now you know how to order. You've become used to the dark. It's what's happened there. So those restaurants, that restaurant was dark. I couldn't see, but the food was excellent. They draw you in with the excellent food. So while there's nothing wrong with that, I want to make that inference that life's the same way. If the lines are blurred between right and wrong, we haven't set up standards on this is how far I go and this is where I stop. If we haven't set those rules up in our lives or in society, then we'll venture over into the dark side. And we get used to that. And then what used to be dark and what used to be wrong Well, we've done it for so long, we're used to it. It's no longer wrong. So that's one reason that we need to have ethics and guidelines. Okay? So in Big C, we're representing the golden standard. You guys are the best. You're the cream of the crop. And a lot of people look up to Big C. They look up to the RCDDs and the RITPs and the RTPMs and the installers and the technicians that are credentialed through Big C. They're saying, Big C's got a reputation, so we want to make sure we maintain that reputation, we protect it. So Big C decided we need to have some norms. We need to have some code of ethics. So we went about doing that. Most companies that you work for do have a code of ethics. They have a standard that they want you to live by. Let me talk to you a second about the FBI. The FBI's motto, or you could call it their code of ethics, is fidelity, bravery, and integrity. I know this because my brother is an FBI agent. I want to talk about it. Is there anybody here from the FBI? Raise your hand, please, if you're from the FBI. Good. I can tell stories about my brother and it won't get back to him. So when we started writing some of these standards, I used the FBI. My brother Steve got me a copy of the FBI's handbook on ethics. So we went through that and we started looking at some of those things just to use an example. So the FBI's motto, or their code of ethics, is fidelity, bravery, and integrity. Fidelity meaning loyalty, loyalty to the country, loyalty to the Bureau, and loyalty to the people that they serve. My brother and I were hiking in the North Georgia mountains not too long ago, and I posed a question to him. I said, Steve, I said, let me ask you a question. If I got in trouble and I need to get out of the country pretty quickly, would you help me? So he stops in his tracks and turns around and looks at me. He said, is this confession time? I said, no, I'm speaking hypothetically. So long story short, he said, no, I wouldn't help you. I would turn you in. And you're thinking, gosh, that's pretty cold. You know, your brother will turn you in. So note to self, never confess to my brother. So that spoke to me volumes about his integrity, which is part of his motto. Let me tell you, these guys, and I've met a lot of them, the FBI agents, they live it. They walk it. They are not those folks that are looking to take money under the table. They walk it. I enjoyed the story that Patrick was telling earlier about the cameras with the Boston bombing. Let me tell you a quick story about my brother. He was in charge of the Violent Crime Task Force in Georgia. And so he'd been tracking these bad guys from Alabama. They'd come over into southern Georgia and robbed a guy and actually shot and nearly killed a lieutenant of the police force in Columbus, Georgia. So my brother had been tracking this group of bad guys, and he tracked them to a hotel in Conyers, Georgia. So he calls the SWAT team in. They're in a hotel room sitting underneath. They tracked them to this hotel room in Conyers. I believe I said that. And so the SWAT team, he called in. They were gearing up. And Steve was outside in his car watching these two guys that were in a hotel room on the second floor. So long story short, the bad guys decided to leave before the SWAT team was ready. So Steve's calling them out and said, guys, come on, you got to move. They said, we're not ready, we're not suited up. And they're getting in their car and they're about to leave, and Steve's making a split-second decision. He said, I can't let them get away. So he takes his Crown Vic. As they're backing out, he rams his car into theirs. All right, there's only one guy in the driver. The other guy's up in the room, so there's just the driver in the car. So Stephen jumps out of his car and is at the back passenger side of the bad guy's car trying to open the door. It's locked, so he's trying to open the door so he can reach in and grab the guy and drag him out. At the same time, GBI and FBI come out and circle the car. So in all of that, my brother gets shot. We assumed what happened is that the bad guy turned around and shot Steve. But because there was a very good camera at the corner of that hotel room, a security camera, it just happened to be pointing right at the scene of all this going on. So good chance is there was a Bixby member involved in at least designing or installing that camera. So to echo what Patrick said, thank you guys for what you do. Your efforts in the design, in the manufacturing, in the installation of the cable and the cameras makes our world a safer place. It allows the FBI and the different agencies to do the things that they do. So thank you for doing that. So my brother was fine. He was shot in the leg. But the interesting thing that the camera, the video showed was we got a copy of it. He brought it over to the house one night and we watched it, is that Steve's at the back door trying to open the door and he gets shot. And you can see it knocks him back. He gets shot in the thigh and it knocks him back and he looks down and then he re-engages. He's back in the melee. Of course, the driver pulled a gun out, and as soon as the gun came out, GBI, FBI hollered, they yelled gun, and I mean, it was bullets flying everywhere. So the guy died. He didn't have a chance to recover. And it was friendly fire. It was a GBI agent shot, went through and got Steve. But it was interesting that the camera caught all of that. And of course, he was awarded and all of those kind of things. But the FBI, again, there it goes to the bravery. So I want to get back to ethics. What are our ethics? What is the ethics statement of Bixby? And what is the ethics statement supposed to do? Ethics statement with FBI is 3 words. It's supposed to be short. But then the book of standards that they have to live by all point back up to that single code of ethics. How many of you here were in the Boy Scouts? I would imagine a lot. A lot of us in here. I am an Eagle Scout. Grew up in Scouts, love scouting, and if you were in Scouts, you remember the Scout Oath, which is the Scouts Code of Ethics. On my honor, I will do my best. You can probably all repeat that after even all these years. So you have the Scout Oath, and then below the Scout Oath, you have the 12 Scout Laws, which are the standard of conduct that point back to that. Well, we took and used those same, that's how you establish an ethics committee, is you declare what is our ethic policy, what's our ethics statement, and then your standards of conduct underneath them. So what is the Bixby Code of Ethics? Does anybody know? Nobody. Yeah, I made this presentation in Denver a couple of months ago, and nobody there knew it either. But you all sign a statement when you renew your credential or when you renew your membership that you will abide by the Bixby Code of Ethics and Standard of Conduct. So what we're going to do today is kind of go through that and go through those very quickly, very lightheartedly. And then at the end, I'll give you some cases that we've studied and taken on, some complaints where people in Bixby have violated these standard of conducts and what we've done to them. So I'll kind of share some of that with you and give you history. But here is the Code of Ethics. Let's see. It is important that the Bixby members and its credential holders exhibit the highest principles of ethical and professional behavior in the provision of their products and services associated with the information technology industry. That's it, folks. Very simple. And we've got 14 points of standard of conduct that we're going to talk about that reflect back to those things. They're not great, eye-opening things. It's stuff that we've done all our lives. You know, honesty, integrity, doing the right thing. It's stuff that, you know, you'd think is common sense. But as more and more people are in our organization, you know, it's a percentage thing. You're going to have a percentage of folks that just don't agree with doing the right thing. Maybe the dollar is so important to them that they're willing to cut corners. They're willing to join the dark side. Maybe just this one time. But once you've gone one time to the dark side, Bruce, then you kind of get used to it, and it's easy to stay there. So what we in Bixie want to do is make sure that folks know where that line is, where the dark side begins, so that you can stay away from it and not get trapped by that. A lot of the folks that we've had ethics complaints against, that's what happened to them. They got in a pinch. They got in a tight spot. Their company, they really needed to win this bid, but this bid required an RCDD, and they didn't have one. So they created a false document. So those kind of things. People get in a tight spot, and they tend to do things that they wouldn't normally do in their right mind. So that's the code of ethics right there on the screen. Okay? So we'll go through these in a little bit. The Code of Ethics is in the Standard of Conduct has been approved by the Board of Directors, as I said, and there's 14 of those. In order for us to meet the ideal of our Code of Ethics that you just saw, we've established these 14 points that we can all live by. They're not hard things, they're easy things, but we need to be careful that we stay within those. So we want to continue representing the Bixie organization. We want our credentials to continue to be of value, right? All of you in here worked hard, studied hard, have years of experience that allowed you to sit for the exam. That test was not easy. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into you passing that test so you could have that credential. You know, Patrick mentioned that it's 3 or 4 letters, and that may not seem like a lot, but that stands for me. That stands for you. That stands for Carol, everything that she does in the Northeast. You know, when my credential is there, it's also speaking about Carol and about Bruce and about John and about each and every one of you. Because when folks look at me and I do a horrible job, they say, man, he's in Bixie. If that's what Bixie folks are like, who needs them? So I'm very careful to protect the credential behind my name, and you should be too. It's very valuable, hard-earned, so we don't want to ruin our name. We don't want to do that. So the very first of the 14 standards of conduct, and like I said earlier, your company probably has a standard of how they want you to behave when you're in front of the customer, right? You know, they have a way that they want you to represent the company. If you don't do that, good chances are they'll let you go, and that will affect you financially. So Bixie has set down these 14 points. This is how we want you to act with customers, with clients, with each other, because you're representing us, all of us. All right? So the first one is to maintain a high standard of personal conduct. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you should have, the Bixie members should have high character. Maintain that high standard of personal conduct. We were at a conference one year, and I won't use any names because I don't want to embarrass anybody. I doubt they're here. But after hours, out in one of the lounges somewhere, I mean, you know, it's after a session was over with, this particular person had a little bit too much to drink and started hitting on this lady, one of the members' wives, who happened to be sitting there with him. So this other guy was really just, and the member said, hey, buddy, back off. Back off. And he wouldn't. It became almost violent to where we had several of our members intervene and escort the guy off property. So would you say that he was demonstrating a high standard of personal conduct? What do you think? No? Probably not. So that reflects bad on everybody. Fortunately, we know that there's isolated incidences, and that was one such thing. So we start off the 14 with, if you wanted to paraphrase it, it'd be integrity and professionalism. If you put yourself in the customer's shoes and treat the customer the way that you would want to be treated, that's called the business golden rule. You can't go wrong with that. Okay? The second one, of the second standard of conduct, is protect and enhance the reputation of the Bixby organization, the credentialing program, and my credential through my actions. So again, personal conduct, but professional conduct, and protect and enhance the reputation of Bixby. We should not be down there, out in the workforce, tearing down the name of Bixby. That's your organization. That's my organization. We represent that, and that helps us in doing our work. So protect and enhance. As I said earlier, our credentials came with a high price. And we all know that our good name, you know, if your name is Jones or Emmett or Smith, you've built your reputation on your name. You know, everybody knows, man, that John Smith, he's good. Bruce Nardone, he's great. If I need anything, I can call Bruce. Carol Oliver, boy, she is top notch. It's the name. You've built that name for yourself, and it's valuable. But you know, it only takes one time, one indiscretion. One time we said, well, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cut the corner just this once. Nobody will ever know. But it's just that one time, then your name becomes mud. So be careful about that. The third standard of conduct is maintain the confidentiality of privileged information entrusted or known to me by virtue of my profession or position, unless disclosure is required by law. So we know that we have access to privileged information. When we're talking to our customers and clients, be careful that you guard that you protect that. Again, that goes to your reputation and Bixby's reputation, that the customers know, hey, I've hired a Bixby person. They have high morals and high ethics and high standards. I can't go wrong with that. So maintain that confidentiality and privileged information. Be trustworthy. That's what that's saying. Number 4, be accurate and truthful in dealing with clients, and be careful not to misrepresent the quality, availability, or ability of the services you provide. You know, you're doing work for a customer and he's happy with what you're doing, and he says, oh, by the way, can you do cameras? Can you do security cameras? You've never done a security camera in your life. Sure, I can do security cameras. Done them all my life. You know, you stepped over that boundary. Be truthful with them. What would be a better approach would be, no, but I have a lot of friends in the industry through my association with Bixby that I can bring in a team and we can get this done for you. Be truthful. That customer, if they already like you, they're going to say, great, do that. There's no point in lying about it and being dishonest. The customers want to know that they can trust you to tell them the truth. Number 5, never under any circumstance make a recommendation that misrepresents or misstates any other individual's qualifications, abilities, or accomplishments. Well, this person over here, he's fantastic. He's an RCDD, he's an ITS expert. Let me bring him in. And it happens to be your brother-in-law who's never done any work in the industry before. But on your recommendation, the customer believes you. This clown comes in and starts doing wiring that's a mess. And then I get a call, my ethics committee gets a call from this company saying, wait a minute, I was told this guy was good, but he's not. He's trash. He said, what's going on with your organization? So he files a complaint and we take action. Be truthful. Misrepresentation. Boy, I tell you, we get more complaints in the ethics committee. Peter, am I not right? We get more complaints in the ethics committee over this one thing, misrepresentation. People are saying they're an RCDD, or they're inferring. They're painting a picture that they are. They didn't come out and say it, but if you read their bio, you'd think they were one. You'd think they were an RITP or an RTPM, but they're really not. They're misrepresenting themselves. So we get more complaints from people that have misrepresented themselves. Some of it's honest. We had a gentleman the other day that a complaint came into our group that on his LinkedIn site, he had put several credentials, and then in the credentials, then he began talking about RCDD, okay, referencing it. And it was very misleading. It made you think that maybe he was an RCDD. And we had a complaint against him. So I called the guy up and I said, look, we've got a complaint against you. This is what's happening. It appears on your LinkedIn site you're proposing that you're an RCDD. He said, I'll fix that right away. He said, that's a mistake. I didn't mean for it to be that way. And so that was an honest mistake. Or at least we're going to assume it was honest. So he fixed it, and no harm, no foul, we went right on. So there's innocent acts. But more issues come into our group because of misrepresentation or misleading than you would imagine. So be careful about that. Number 6, provide unbiased, accurate, and objective assessments for all safety and operational deficiencies that may be discovered during the performances of my services. So people know and have come to understand that Big C is concerned about standards and about quality. That's what our organization does. We spend a lot of hours working on writing standards. And on the codes committee, our committee, which some have deemed it to be a large kept secret, but we review the National Electric Code in depth, looking for what might be changed, what might help the organization, what might help the industry if we change this a little bit, if we remove this, if we added this. So the industry knows that Big C is concerned about quality and about safety. We had a case not too long ago where a company had hired a Big C person, or a Big C certified person, I should say, to come in and do the wiring in their plant. And it just wasn't up to snuff. It was bad wiring. He didn't dress it up right. They had faults. It wasn't working well, so they hired another Big C credentialed person to come in and do the audit work, to audit what they had done and find the mistakes. Well, first of all, that's terrible that he had to do that the quality of work was so bad. But then you know what the auditor did? He came in and he made it worse. In his auditing of the project, he actually added some more mess to it. Can you believe that? He messed the wiring up, he made coils, he put wires that were hanging from suspended ceiling, and then he took pictures of it and took it back to that customer and said, look what this guy has done. It's terrible. No wonder your service is bad. Let me fix it for you. Hire my company and we'll fix that. So we get all kinds of things. Be careful that you don't misrepresent. While you're doing work, do the best that you can. Follow the Big C standards. And if you see something that's wrong, let the customer know. Number 7, refrain from representing competitors to the clients or to the public by the use of false and misleading statements or malicious actions, but rather work and compete with them in a reasonable and professional manner for the benefit and advancement of our profession. Be fair and honest. Be fair and honest. So represent your competitors in a right way. When I was with Bell South, we had to be very careful about that. When other companies came into our territory and started doing cabling and wiring into commercial buildings, our legal told us you cannot disparage that other company. All you can do is talk about the good things that AT&T can do, that we can do, but do not disparage our competitors. You know, and that's just a good practice. You know, you want to win the business on your merits, not on chopping the legs out from somebody else. They may or may not be providing good service. They may or may not be a good company, but there's no need for you to point that out. Just be honest in your assessment. Say, yeah, I know of that company, but this is what we can do for you. So be careful about that. Fair and honest. Number 8, refrain from using false and misleading statements or malicious actions that might injure another person's reputation or bring harm to their person or property. So that one is similar to number 7, but that one could also apply to clients. Be careful. If you've worked for a company, be careful how you're talking about them to your peers, to other folks that might later on work with that company. Paint them, just be honest and just be fair, but don't use false and misleading statements about those folks. Be truthful. Number 9, respect the client's decision in the selection of competitive services and continue to offer and provide that client with quality services for as long as is necessary. So if a client's hired you to do this work, and then you can do the camera and you can do the security work for them, but instead they hire somebody else, there might be a tendency for you to cut corners and say, man, I lost that business. I lost that work. And that really ticks me off. So on this other work that I'm doing for them, I'm going to cut the corners. I'm going to show them, well, who are you really showing? You're hurting your reputation. You're hurting Bixie's reputation. So just because they choose to go to someone else, don't let that keep you from doing the best job that you can do for your client. Be respectful. Number 10, serve all members of the public impartially, providing no substandard service based on the individual's age, race, national origin, color, sex, sexual orientation, disability, or religious belief. Okay? We all, in our companies, have those EEO policies, right? We're going to treat everybody fairly. Doesn't matter what race, creed, national origin, and so forth. We're going to treat everybody with respect, with dignity, provide the best service we can. If especially small businesses, we take work wherever we can get it. If someone hires us and then they think, well, I don't care for these people. I don't like this lifestyle that these people have. I don't agree with their religion. So, if you agree to work for them, if you agree to do the work, treat them with respect. Everybody deserves respect. What was it Aretha said? R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Respect everybody, right? Okay. So, number 11, we're coming to the end here. Number 11 is adhere to the relevant codes, laws, industry standards, and Bixie methodologies where appropriate. That's why you guys are here today, so that you're up to date on all of these codes, all of the standards, all of the new techniques. Man, Patrick, I heard some stuff in your presentation. No, it wasn't yours. It was the first guy that talked about the headgear that's coming. And that you can, the technology that you'll be able to see your calendar just from a pair of glasses that you're wearing. And then there's another device that you can control your computer just by your thoughts. Man, that's cool. The technology that's coming down the road is amazing. And that's why we're here, to be introduced, to be exposed to this new technology. So that if someone's calling a Bixie credentialed person, they know that they've kept up their 45 hours of continuing education every year. They've renewed their credential. They're on top of the technology. So when you're here, give it your all. Learn everything that you can. Be out here at the booths, learning, talking to the exhibitors. So we want to adhere to all of our relevant codes, and they change all the time. So be educated. Stay up on quality services. Number 12, take personal responsibility to ensure that all requirements necessary for the renewal of your Bixie credentials will be met and renewed on time. We have a lot of folks that come up to the very end and their credential it expires next month. And I didn't have enough time. I don't have enough hours to renew. What do I do? Well, that was poor planning. So be ethical about this thing. You know that you have 3 years to do this. Plan ahead. But if you let your stuff expire and then call the Bixie office and say, can I have an extension? I ran out of time. That speaks about your character and your reputation. So let's not do that. Maintain your credentials in the way that you should. There's opportunities out there in regional meetings, webinars, breakfast seminars. Take advantage of those. Be sure that you're keeping up with your hours. Take your personal responsibility and do that. Number 13, Be accurate, honest, and truthful in the presentation of all educational materials or in the preparation of material orders and product availability. So that catches a lot of things, but again, you see that honesty and truthfulness. That's no secret. That's not hard to do. Be honest and be truthful in everything that you do, work-related, whether it's inside of Bixby, while you're here taking a class, or you're attending seminars, when you're on the web, and you just log into the website for this 2 or 3 hours of continuing ed training, and while you're on the website, you put it on mute, and you turn around and you attend a conference call with your boss. Have you really earned those continuing ed units? Or are you being dishonest? There's nobody there watching you to know if you're being honest or not. You know if you're being honest or not. So we say be accurate and honest and truthful in all of that. So the last one, I will not misrepresent my Bixby credential. So I want you to notice we started with integrity and we ended with integrity. I will not misrepresent my Bixby credential. That happens, as I said earlier, so often. That's probably the number one complaint that we get in our office, that someone is claiming to be this or that. Okay? So if we follow these ethical ideas that we all learned as children, that we all learned in school, that we've all learned in life, we've all messed up. We've all done things that we wish we hadn't have done, and we've paid the price for it. So don't let those lessons learned continue. Learn from it. Be honest. Be truthful. Have integrity. Live an ethical life. So some of the violations that we've seen, those are the 14 standards of conduct. If you have not seen them before, now you have. Feel free to go on the website, Bixby Ethics website. Look at those. They're there for you. If you have any questions about those, I'll be glad to talk to you about it. Feel free to give me a call. But it's always interesting. People ask me, okay, you're on the ethics committee for Bixby. What kind of complaints do you get? What do you guys deal with? I can't imagine anybody from Bixby being unethical. So what do you do? And I said, we don't do anything. We just look pretty. Actually, some of the common things that we see is improper use of an RCDD stamp. Let me tell you one story that was interesting in a lot of different aspects. This gentleman who was an RCDD passed away. He worked for a company, and apparently this company continued using his stamp to stamp drawings after he had passed away. His widow contacted us and said, I'd like to have my husband's stamp back. I'd like to have that. And she notified us that they were continuing to use that stamp. So that put us we didn't know what to do. Whose stamp is it? Does that stamp belong to Bixby, or does it belong to the individual? So we got our legal involved in that, and we determined that that stamp belonged to the husband, to his estate. That was his. He earned it. He paid for it. It belonged to him. So we contacted that company and told them we knew that they were using his stamp illegally, and it belonged to the estate, and we requested it be returned to the widow. And they promptly did that and stopped using his stamp. So we had to take no further action, but that's one example. And I imagine you can think of several other examples how someone could misuse an RCDD stamp. But we're on top of that. Cheating on credential exams. How many of you have ever tried to cheat on a credential exam? Let me see your hands. Peter, take names, would you? Nobody. Good. I didn't think anybody confessed to that. So, but you would think, because the RCSC does such a great job of monitoring the documents, monitoring everything that goes in and out of that meeting, you would think, this just wouldn't be possible. Well, I don't think it has happened, but we've caught people attempting to do it, if you can believe that or not. So we've caught those folks attempting to cheat on their credentials. And I won't go any further with that, but we have caught them, and it just blows my mind that somebody would try to do that. But there are those. The third one is unethical business practices between competitors. I told you about the example of the auditor that went out, and while he found a few things wrong, he was going to make sure he found more things. So he created problems and photographed them and tried to get more work out of that. So it happens. And those things get reported to us. We investigate and we take action. Use of false credential certificates to win bids. We just dealt with one of these lately. A guy needed to win this bid. He said, I talked to him in person, and I felt sorry for the guy. Actually, I really did. He said, Alvin, business is so bad. I needed to bring some revenue in, and I really needed to win that bid. And it required that they had a BICSI certified installer. He didn't have a BICSI certified installer, but he got a certificate, and he photoshopped it and put his name on it and submitted it. He took the advice of a buddy of his, is what he told me. The buddy of his told him, said, go ahead and create the document, submit it, and then go sit for the exam. By the time you pass the ITS exam, by the installer technician exam, by the time you pass it, you'll have this credential and nobody will know the difference. Well, they did. They found out. He did exactly that. After he had submitted, a couple of months after he had submitted and won the bid, he came down and took the technician's exam, passed it, and now he has a legitimate. But he used a falsified document to win a bid. He provided false bid documents. So that was not only unethical, but that was illegal. Cost him thousands and thousands of dollars. Cost him also that credential he just earned. We revoked that credential, and we have banned him from BICSI membership for a period of time. So these things happen. It's incredible that people will do this and put their professional lives at risk, but they do. And those are just a few of the things. So you might ask yourself, Alvin, how do I know when I'm about to do something unethical? How do I know if it's not right? How do I know? Well, I suggest that you do a gut check. Your mom probably told you when you were growing up, she said, if it feels wrong, it probably is. You know down inside if what you're about to do is wrong. It doesn't have to be illegal to be unethical. If you're skating around, if you're going in the gray area and you're cutting corners, you know if it's right or if it's wrong. Hemingway wrote, I know only that what is moral is what you feel good about afterwards, and what is immoral is what you feel bad about afterwards. Have you ever done something and then after you did it, you felt bad about it? Raise your hand. Peter, don't take names here. Should be all of us. I mean, we've all done things that after we did it, going, I feel bad about that. I hate that I did that. And I'll never do that again. Some of those things are small, and they don't cause any major impacts in our lives. Some of them are huge, and they impact our pocketbook. They impact our ability to do our work. So be careful about that. Do the gut check. You can call me, but I don't want to be your moral conscience. Check yourself. What does self say about it? Is it okay? If it's not okay, don't do it. Okay? Tom Peters said there's no such thing as a minor lapse in integrity. You know what you're doing. You know that guy knew that it was wrong for him to falsify that document and submit for a bid. He knew that. He didn't have to call me and ask, Alvin, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Would that be right or wrong? He didn't need to do that. He knew it was wrong. And when I called him, he said, I've been waiting on your call. That's exactly what he said. He said, I've been waiting on your call. I knew this was going to come out. And he said, and I did it. And I shouldn't have. I took bad advice and I shouldn't have done it. He knew it. I didn't have to do an elaborate investigation and go prove all the documents, although we did do that. He admitted it. He said, I was waiting on your call because he knew that he had done wrong. Okay? Isn't it better to earn business the old-fashioned way. You know, you earn it. You do a good job. You build a good name for yourself. You've got the backing of Bixie and the credentials behind you. We have a great reputation in the industry. People want to hire Bixie credentialed folks. So if you just stand on that, you'll be all right. So let's earn the business. Let's don't do it in a deceitful, underhanded way. In closing, what I want to remind you is that my committee is here for you. You are the gold standard. You are the people that have built Bixie. You are the people that I stand on your shoulders when somebody says, hey, I need someone to do some design work for my college campus. And I heard Bixie's great, and Alvin's a member of Bixie. Alvin would be good because I'm associated with you and your reputation. That helps me. And I give that back to you by keeping your reputation clean and strong. So our committee is here for you to make sure that we're watching out for those few who would do things that you and I would never think about doing. I'm here to talk to you about the Bixie Ethics Committee, not hoping that I'll get a surge of new business and new complaints, because I sure don't want that. What I'm hoping to do is to put the word out that we're watching. And if anybody's out there thinking about doing something wrong or walking to the dark side and thinking they'll get away with it, please don't. Please don't. I want you to help take care of your reputation and help take care of the reputation of Bixie. So that's what my committee is here to do. We're not the policemen. We're not walking around the halls with cameras trying to catch somebody doing something wrong. If you see me, please come up and shake my hand. Don't run from me because, I'm not looking to get anybody in trouble. All right? Jerry Bowman asked me one time if I had my camera with me, my recording device, and no, I don't do that. And so we are independent. We're just like you guys. We're not goons of the staff that are trying to find people doing wrong. I would much rather find people doing things right. And occasionally people do make mistakes. The punishments that we've handed out range from just what Carl Bonner used to call a velvet hammer, where we would call somebody and we rap them on the knuckles and say, stop doing this. Cease and desist. You're not an RCDD. Stop putting those 4 letters behind your name. And that was enough. That took care of it. No further action. We continue to watch that person. If in case they do, then we take the next level of action. To the guy that falsifies documents and submits them for a bid. We get the range everywhere in between. And we know people are generally honest. And we treat everybody as innocent until proven guilty. But let me tell you, in closing, what we do, without giving away our secrets, because I am not the final say. Our committee is the final say. We hand out the discipline. But when a complaint comes into our office, we take it very seriously, and I assign it to a team, what I call a strike team. There's 3 members of my committee, and we rotate it around so everybody gets experience. It's not always one person doing this, but this team of 3 people will make the phone calls. They'll investigate. They'll dig up documents. They'll do whatever they have to do to uncover the truth. And then that strike team brings it back to a full committee, and we discuss it, and we decide what to do about that situation. So that's kind of how we operate. We're out there trying to protect you and your reputation and your credentials. I have been speaking at different regional meetings, and it's been well received. The folks that I spoke to at the Denver regional meeting, which was combined with South Central and Western region, they were amazed that this committee is out here, this active, this involved doing these things, watching out for those people that would misuse the credential, misuse the stamp. So they were happy to hear that, and I hope you are as well. If you have not heard about us, that's all I'm here to do is kind of educate you, let you know what we're doing, and that we're here to help you and help the organization avoid ethical violations, not fine more. Okay? So if you know of someone that is doing something wrong, you can go on to our website and file a complaint. It's very easy. Just give us the information, and you can do it anonymously if you want to. We've had several complaints we've resolved in that fashion. So please do that. Go on the website, look us up, file a complaint if you know of someone that's doing something that they shouldn't be doing. It may just require a phone call from us saying, hey, stop, cut it out, and then that'll get it handled. So with that, I just want to thank you for being here in Vegas. Thank you for the reputation that you uphold, and look for me out on the conference floor and come shake my hand. I'd love to talk to you. Have a good conference.